Hello, I'm just doing a little introduction to a video of an event I did at a music festival called the Bestival on the Isle of Wight, not far from me, in September 2012. It's always interesting when I do events like that. I've done a few over the years, not too many, and they're always the same. What happens is you get a lot of very open, awake people who come to hear the information. They've often read about it in the books and stuff, and they've got a feel for where I'm coming from. But you also get at these festivals, well, basically, the morons. These are people, young people, because of the nature of the event, often, that have not been on the earth for that very long, but are already solid gold programmed into the system's perception of reality. So anything that's just a little bit out from their tiny pea-sized norm has got to be crazy or impossible and all the rest of it. And it also draws in what I termed a long time ago now, because I had experience of this mentality for so long, I call them the robot radicals. They are of the left in politics, as they see it in this ridiculous, irrelevant, actually meaningless left-right spectrum. On one side you have the robot right, and then on the other side you have what I call the robot radicals. There's no difference really, there's no real difference between, or fundamental difference at all between fascism and communism. The difference on the surface between the robot right and the robot radicals is the robot radicals think they're so pure and oh, we're so pure, and they wear their hearts on their sleeves, and in my experience, their brains up their arse. And you know, they've been attacking me for years. He's an anti-Semite. And the funny thing is, they never actually come and hear you. It's all second-hand and stuff taken out of context and all the rest of it. And if you stand up and you speak out against the genocide of Palestinians, a whole nation in Israel, Palestine, then somehow you're anti-Semitic, which doesn't actually mean anti-Jewish, but it's too deep for them. And I had this kind of experience in this festival of the kind of mix of all this, some lovely, lovely people, but also the robot radicals. And they always have the mouths, you know. I mean, robot radical, one of the things that comes with it is a big gob, it seems to me. Then they try to drown everyone else out. Oh, you're a man, you've got a big mouth. And what happened quite early on in the talk, as you'll see, is a girl jumps on the stage and reads some out of context stuff from my books. He's an anti-Semite, in other words, you know. And then what she did, after mouthing off, she left, not staying to listen what I really say and all the rest of it. Couldn't care less, because they're not into what someone's saying. They're just into posturing their own fake purity and trying to undermine and turn people against someone who's trying to point out that we, ironically, little girl in a woman's body, that we are heading so fast into a fascist global state. And so it was good, in a way, to have this mentality there as just a confirmation of how easy it is for the few to control the many when they allow themselves to be programmed with these software perceptions that they've taken from the system. You are a left-of-centre radical. This is how you act. This is what you say. Okay, yes, sir. And you are of the robot right. This is how you act, and this is what you say. Yes, thank you, sir. And so it goes on, and they think they're free thinkers. Software programs on legs. And then, I don't know where he came from, to be honest, but you'll see a guy in this event. I was going to go out and talk, as I do, but the organizers had arranged for this bloke to come on the stage with me and, quote, interview me. Well, he didn't actually do that. He just set out to undermine what I was saying and interrupt at crucial moments when I was connecting dots so that the thought was never finished. And his name was Richard Strange, which I guess is short for Dick Strange, which, you know, after my experience of him was pretty appropriate, really, because he was again someone with hindsight that was good to be there and good to act as he did, because he was, like the girl who jumped on the stage, a personification of how the world is controlled by a tiny few people who manipulate the perception of the masses. This is a chap who's never done any research into the detail of what I'm saying, never read any of my books, knows basically nothing about what I'm saying, and has a range of perception that is so tiny, it's unbelievable. And anyone like me who's talking outside of that perception, the perception can't encompass that possibility. So the person saying it has to be crazy or deluded. What they don't realize is they're the ones that are deluded. They're deluded by the pea-size breadth of their sense of perception. Because this is very important. If you do not have a sense of perception that is movable, then you're in a box. You're in a box of perception, and you will never get out of it until your perception of the possible moves. The other point, just finally, is that at the end, I came off, and one of the security people said, we've got a car coming to take you to your car, which was a long way away in one of the big car parks, about an hour's walk away. And I said, no, I like walking. I'll walk back, thanks. He said, no, we've had threats of violence against you, so we're going to put you in a car and take you back to your car for your safety. I said, you must be bloody joking, mate. I don't do intimidation, thank you. I'm walking back to my car on my own, which I did, actually, with a couple of people who were chatting to me in the end. And it's funny that, you know, these people who threaten this, the robot radicals, he's anti-Semitic, I want to hit him. They're the ones that go on anti-war marches and think they stand for peace. And also they think they stand for freedom of expression. But you know what they stand for? Just like the robot right? Their freedom of expression. Thus, anyone who is expressing something outside of their belief system, that is not a freedom of expression that they're prepared to accept. Only what they believe should have freedom of expression, not what they don't believe. And so you get this whole situation of, you know, I stand for peace, stop the war, I want to punch him, he's saying something I disagree with. You know, hit me with your head, mate, you know, you'll do yourself less damage, you know. So it was an interesting day, and kind of encompassed so many things. And to stand there and see, I think, you know, the majority of the audience, pretty much, that were kind of open and, you know, awakening to another reality of the world and self and everything. But they were the quiet ones. And then to have the few, well, morons, you know, I can't think of a better word than that, really. Kind of wanting to shout out with their closed minds and all the rest of it, being wound up by this guy who was, you know, as you'll see. When you see that in front of you, you see this awakening, kind, gentle, decent people. And then you see these moronic, loudmouth software programs. You realize, in fact, you see the chasm there is between that which is becoming conscious and that which is solid gold asleep. And this is the fork in the road we're at now. Are we going to awaken to something like that? Or are we going to stay in a tiny little box of software perception that perceives it is free thought? That's the sad thing. Anyway, it was a very interesting day, and here it is. Enjoy.
Next up, we have author and controversial talker David Icke. But first, his son Gareth playing the theme of their new show, Remember Who You Are. Give it a round of applause, please.
Cheers. were born is to the floor. We won't be downtrodden anymore. Learn a roll. Want yourself a settle scores with all my height. Stand with shoulders wide. Step clean out of line. Hold my head up high. They can't take my eyes. I still take to flight. They can't break my mind. For what I'm born with is mine. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. Find your feet and take to streets. None comply with glorious belief. The best elite has no power over me with all my height. Stand with shoulders wide. Step clean out of line. Hold my head up high. They can't take my eyes. I still take to flight. They can't break my mind. For what I'm born with is mine. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. Standards one, standards one, standards one. 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 Go with all my height. Stand with shoulders wide. Step clean out of line. Hold my head up high. They can't take my eyes. I still take to flight. They can't break my mind. For what I'm born with is mine. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. Cheers, thanks.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Thank you. Richard Strange, David very, very bloody strange, right?
David Icke, my name's Richard Strange, and for the next hour, we're going to have a chat, basically. I suspect David might get a few more words in than I do, but that's only fitting for the interviewer-interviewee dynamic. You're here to hear what he has to say, and I'm here to press the buttons to get him to say it, I guess. I do a show in London called A Mighty Big If, which is a chat show. I normally do a one-to-one, usually with artists, so interviewing David today is going to be a new and I'm sure very interesting, provocative, maybe controversial, and certainly engaging experience for all of us. So I do hope you'll enjoy it. So give a very big hand for David Icke.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, David, because we've got a bit of time, do you mind if we go back to the very beginning? It's a long journey you've come on, and I hope it's a long journey you'll take us on today and bring us right up to speed. But for my generation, you were a household name. For a totally different generation, you are a household name again. But it's been a journey, hasn't it, that you've come on from that first, well, growing up in Leicester and a kid who wasn't really achieving much except a bit of sport.
Yeah, I hope that in the last nearly quarter of a century that I've made something very plain for everybody, and that is we need to express who we are and not what some bloody society, some school, some university, some media blueprint tells us we must be. And if you keep walking on that expression of uniqueness, whatever it is, in a world of enforced uniformity, a world of psychological fascism where we're constantly told what we should think, what we should do, what we should say, where we should go, how we should live our lives, then when you express uniqueness in a world like that, you are going to get some response. I seem to remember that I had some...
Give me a minute to express my uniqueness.
Oh, go on then.
Seeing as Bestival presents itself as an ethical space, I just thought it would be good for you guys to know that David Icke said, I strongly believe that a small Jewish clique
oh my God.
with non-Jews to create the first Russian Revolution and the Second World War. He has said that the Jews financed Hitler to power.
Right.
So, a wonderful...
And somebody...
As David, I'm sure, would suggest, you listen to everyone, you give everyone a fair hearing. We are not on teams here. We are here to have a debate, if you wish.
Now we've hit on something. Now we've hit on something, which is exactly the theme that I was talking about, which is other people telling other people what they should think, do, and say. I have no problem with that lady saying whatever she likes. She has a problem with me saying what I like, and that was massively out of context, by the way.
But then could I just ask if they were your words that she quoted?
I'm not going there. It was massively out of context. And so what happens is, even though the mainstream have all the media, all the education system, and all the corporations, and they own the banking system, when one man gets up and speaks his truth, somehow there's a problem with that. I have no problem with her or anyone else speaking their truth. Who is the fascist? Who is the censor? Me or thee?
But could I just ask you again, were the quotations that she was quoting back at you words that you'd said? Context or not?
If I talked about that, then I'd be talking about that for hours, because it has to be put into context. People who've actually read my books realize what nonsensical stuff that is. I don't talk about Jewish people. I talk about something called Rothschild Zionism. And the lady might not know, but around the world, this is where it wasn't where I was going to go, but I will. Around the world, unpublicized by the mainstream media, go on the internet and find it, are large numbers of Jewish people who actually protest against Zionism. Because Jewishness, the race, whatever you want to call it, and Zionism, the political philosophy, are not the same thing. And I'll tell you something else. As we speak, there is a whole people in Palestine undergoing systematic genocide. Who is speaking out for them? This is not about race, it's about decency. Anyone sees my philosophy on the nature of reality, remember who you are. Yeah, so who are we? What is this reality that we're experiencing? We are consciousness, infinite awareness, having an experience called David Icke, Charlie Jones, or Ethel Smith. These divisions of race and religion and income bracket and all this stuff are there to divide and rule us. We are all one consciousness. Jew, Gentile, atheist, Muslim, none of them. I don't care. These are just labels. These are not who we are. These are just titles for our experience and our belief system, which pulls us into a tiny fraction of who we are. How many people get up in the morning and think, hey, I'm all that is, has been, and ever can be, having an experience? No, we get up and we say, I'm a Jew, I'm a Gentile, I'm English, I work in the store, I'm a banker. These are labels. And they're labels that pull us into a fraction of the infinite awareness we all are. It's an illusion. You know, people go about their lives. We have a science, we have the media, we have education, we have all of this stuff, and it's all based on a simple massive big lie. And labels like Jewish and Muslim and all this stuff are part of the big lie. They're all pulled into it. And that big lie is...
Is Zionist part of the big lie as a label?
Mate, I want to speak to the people. If you keep interrupting me, I've got no flow. I'll stop when I'm ready. Now, we think of ourselves as those labels, when what we are is infinite awareness. And all those institutions are based and founded on the big lie that we live in a solid world. We don't. This is an illusion. Even quantum physics has shown that there is no solidity. So if this is not solid, even though I'm experiencing it as such, what the hell is crazy anymore? What the hell is fantastic anymore when this ain't solid? Why? Because it's made of atoms, they tell us, and atoms have no solidity. How can something made of no solidity create a solid world? It can't. And once you take on the idea that the world is solid and this is solid and all this is real, you take on the belief system of limitation. Because once we believe in solidity, then we believe, of course, in the limitations of solidity. When we realize that we are infinite awareness and everything is energy expressing itself in a different way, when we realize that we live in a virtual reality universe akin to some virtual reality wireless internet, then suddenly limitation's not there anymore. You can start to express and to understand the full magnitude of who we are. Jew, Gentile, anybody, labels, irrelevant. We take them seriously. They divide and rule the many so the few can control the direction of the world.
Could you tell me here, what is the point of the conspiracy and who is running it?
Well, for 25 years I've been going down this road of uncovering a global conspiracy. And the reason that so many people come to my work today, having ridiculed me and dismissed me years and years ago, is because what was in my books years ago is now on the television news. And it's quite simply, there is a network of families, no, not Jewish, a network of families that are sitting on top of the banking system, the media, the corporations, governments of any party. This is why, you know, Blair gets replaced by Brown, gets replaced by Cameron. What changes? Bugger all. Bush gets replaced by, oh, Mr. Change, Obama. What changes? Bugger all. Why? Because the way politics is set up is that, I'll give you an American example. In the Bush era, Republican, it says here, that was controlled, even the mainstream media acknowledged that, by a group of people we're known as the neoconservatives or neocons. The Democratic Party in America is controlled by a cabal just the same that I call the democons. It includes people like George Soros, the financier, and Zbigniew Brzezinski, Jimmy Carter's former national security advisor. Now, the neocons and the democons at the next level answer to the same force, meaning whoever's in power, they're in power. The same happens in Britain, and that's why nothing changes. Labour, Conservative today are standing on the same postage stamp, and that is dictated by this hidden power. And so the structure of world control, because I mean the question is, how do a few control the many? How do a few control billions? You know the answer to that? If you know the structure by which they operate, it's a piece of bloody cake. But we have to be kept in the dark about that, and this is the structure. If you look at a transnational corporation, say like McDonald's, they will have a headquarters somewhere in the world, And from that headquarters, they will have subsidiaries in every country. And those subsidiaries will operate in line with the centrally dictated agenda from the headquarters. So if you go into a McDonald's in the Soviet Union, in Australia, in America, in Britain, anywhere, you're going into basically the same McDonald's. The structure of global control is based on that model, except it's secret societies. The center of this web is in Europe, for historical reasons, and in each country there is a network of families that control that country's banking, politics, business, media, etc. And its job in each country is to introduce the centrally dictated agenda in their sphere of influence.
And the agenda is what?
I've got to put these pieces together. One dot leading to another dot. I'll come to that. And therefore, you have this central cabal operating out of Europe, not European governments, centralized secret society web, and they dictate to the subsidiaries. And their job is to carry out the centrally dictated agenda in their sphere of influence. And so, we have had this constant centralization of power in every area of our lives. And it's got to such a point, has done for a very, very long time, where it's got a name. It's called globalization. Globalization, the centralization of power in every area of our lives, is this very agenda I'm talking about. Because if you are a few, and at the center, at the core of this, compared with 7 billion people, it is a few, then you cannot have diversity of decision-making in any way, shape, or form, because the more you have diversity of decision-making, the more impossible it is for a small cabal to actually dictate to all those points of decision-making. What you want to create this centralized Orwellian state that we're hurtling towards by the day is to constantly centralize power, because then at each point you centralize power, fewer and fewer people are dictating to more and more people.
But if this is a cabal that is so all-powerful, so omnipotent, how come they cannot keep the simple secret of a secret society secret? How come you know about it and your followers know about it?
25 years of full-time research traveling to 50-odd countries. How many people do that in search of one research area of research? That's what it takes to put this together. And if people haven't seen now where we've got a situation where power is going into fewer and fewer hands, where someone not even elected is now running Italy, and don't think that's a bloody one-off either, because that, I've been writing about that for years. They want an end to democracy, as we call it, because they call it the post-democratic, post-industrial society. That's where we're heading. But the point is that in all areas of our lives, I mean, look at it. Look at media ownership. Fewer and fewer and fewer people. Look at government. Let's take the European Union. I wish someone would. There was a point a long, long time ago, I'm sure many people at this Bestival would wish we were there now, but there was a time a long time ago, actually not maybe that long, when people lived in tribes. And the people in the tribe decided what happened in the tribe. We then reached this massively critical point where lots and lots of tribes were brought together under something called nations. Now, a few people at the center of the nation are dictating to all the former tribes from the center. Then we moved into this other critical point where lots and lots of nations were pulled together under something called the European Union. Now a few people at the center of the European Union are dictating to all the former countries, which are dictating to all the former tribes. And we have a situation now where 75% of laws affecting this country are decided in the European Union by the European Commission, which is an unelected dark suit cabal. And it's going on and on and on and on.
David, if I could just drop in here, you mentioned the example of Italy and the fact that Italy now has an undemocratically elected prime minister. What's your preference for the democratically elected Berlusconi?
Well, let's ask what your preference is.
I don't have one, I'm just an interviewer.
Lip service at least to having people decide who they want to vote, ridiculous as it is, to an even more outrageous situation where they don't get the chance. Someone else dictates it.
Are you a Democrat?
I believe in people having control over their own lives, their own views, and their own thoughts. All people.
All people, okay.
All people.
I just wanted to clarify that.
You know, people talk about fascism and communism.
How do you put a system in place that enables
you
that?
keep talking about a system. Why can't we find a level of intelligence and a level of open-hearted togetherness that we can't just live our lives? I have a simple philosophy, you know, I'll tell you what it is. Do what you like, so long as you don't impose it on anyone else. End of frickin' story, by the way. End of story. And people say, oh no! Well, what about someone murdering someone? And you go, well, I think murdering someone might just be imposing your will upon them. What do you reckon? Laws are there to control people, and the laws that need to be there at this time are there to overcome the fact that we are not in a state of consciousness where we can respect each other's right to be different and respect each other's right to be who they are. I don't care what people do, so long as everyone is happy doing it and is not having it imposed upon them.
I think that's very easy to say and very noble thoughts, but as we all know, it's absolute nonsense. It just doesn't work. How do you get hospitals? Who's going to do the toilets in that situation? Who's going to do the plumbing? Who's going to drive the buses? Who's going to dig the graves?
Unbelievable. You see, the thing is, this is how deep the programming of humanity has gone. We cannot see an alternative to the system that controls us. It's unbelievable. We can live us in a society without being told that we must do this and must do that. Why? Unbelievable. You know what education is? Education is preparing people to think the way the system wants. You come out of the womb, and within 3 or 4 years, you're sitting at a desk being told what to do and think by authority, and then you go on and on and on, and the system tells you what to think and what to believe, and you learn that actually intelligence doesn't come from yourself, it comes from repeating what authority has told you to bloody believe. And I mean, we then go all through the education system, and at the end of it, what are we? Unless we've managed to hold on to some kind of uniqueness, we're just another expression of the system. So much so that we can't think of a world without the system. What was that line in the Matrix movie where the Neo character, the Morpheus character, was talking about people in the system being so inured, so controlled by the system that they fight to protect it? What do you think troops are doing when they're slaughtering the innocent around the world? They are saving a system that does that, and they're saving and protecting a system that wishes to not only control them, but control their children and grandchildren on a freaking level that'll have you running home to your mum. People have no idea what's coming if we don't wake up, grow up, and open our minds from the programs that enslave us. For goodness sake, my grandchildren are going to have to live in the world that people looking the other way not my problem, or no, he's just mad, are going to have to live in. How bad does it have to get? Look at it in this country. All the laws taking freedoms away. In America, the president can now order the arrest of anyone and jail them without charge, without evidence, and without any trial. He can, and does, sign a death list where they can kill Americans abroad and other people with drone attacks. No judicial even, that's bloody corrupt as well, but no judicial oversight. It just signs it. This is going on in our world now. But how bad does it have to get before we wake up and roll this back? Because if we don't, my God, we're going to regret, well, I'm not, I'm doing my bloody best, but people are going to regret this for a very long time, like the rest of their bloody lives. And I tell you what they're going to have to do. These policemen and uniforms and dark suits that are bringing this in by the day, those people in the community who are going, no, he's mad, oh no, that would never happen, they'd never do that. They're going to have to look their children and grandchildren in the eye at some point. When their children say, Mummy, Daddy, what were you doing when this Orwellian fascist dictatorship came about? And they're going to have to say either, I was watching EastEnders, honey, or in the uniforms and the suits, they're going to have to say, I was helping to bring it in, honey. For goodness sake, wake up.
David, do you think it's possible to have shades of political opinion without having to necessarily subscribe to the idea of secret reptilian societies controlling the whole world? Do you think there might be just a little bit more subtlety in the world than that?
You're a nice man. Okay, let's take that on. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I really don't. You know what, the one thing that ridicule cleared out of me 25 years ago? The fear or concern with what other people think of me. And I'll tell you that is the greatest freedom you can imagine. How many people in this world can say that? Eh? So let's take the reptilian thing on. Do you know, look at you. I've seen more brains in a tin of peas. Anyway, listen, let's just look at this, shall we? Do you know that one of the greatest prisons that people live in, and one of the greatest ways that we are enslaved while denying it, is the control of the perception of the possible. If you control the perception of the possible, boom! Anything that happens outside of that, your perception of the possible is going to dismiss it as impossible. And so, if you don't realize that it's possible to mind control someone, to go and shoot people en masse with a gun, then when it happens and the government gives you their official version of it, your perception of the possible has nowhere else to go except the government explanation. There can be no other. But when you open your bloody minds and do a bit of research and remove the arse from the sofa, then you start to expand your sense of possibility and therefore have other possibilities with which to question the lies. Yeah. Now, okay, reptilian entities, okay.
Your phrase,
people here.
Your phrase, not mine.
People, yes, of course it's my phrase, it's in all my books. Anyway, okay, how many people here think at this moment that they can see everything there is to see in this space? How many people think that? How many people think that? Right. I see, that's hilarious. You know what you can see is a tiny, tiny frequency range, so tiny it's laughable, called visible light. That's all you can see. Okay, you know what X-rays can see and infrared cameras can see, and that's only a little bit out from this frequency. Can you see that now? So who put their hand up that they could see everything in the space here? You can't even see what technology can see. And if you look at what mainstream science says exists in this universe as mass and matter, what they call dark matter, dark energy, and all the rest of it, the electromagnetic spectrum is around 0.005% of that. Some people say a bit more, but not much. Visible light, which is all you can see and decode into a visual reality, is a fraction of the 0.005%. So, here's the question. What goes on in the other almost totality of the universe? What goes on in there? What goes on in there? You haven't got a clue, have you? You haven't got a clue, and I haven't got a clue about vast amounts of it, but I am open enough to realize I don't know, and therefore I'm open to other possibilities. You are going, I don't know, nothing exists. And a few people can't control the world. It's a piece of piss.
How do they do it, and why?
We are...
Why? This is just a very simple question. Why do they change? Why do they control the world? What is it for them?
They want total control of human society. We go really deeper into it. They're feeding off energy. They're feeding off our energy from other levels of reality beyond visible light. And therefore, when the Morpheus character held the battery up and said the machines have turned human beings into one of these, he was very close to the truth symbolically. And you know what that energy is? It's fear. It's fear, it's anxiety, it's frustration, it's anger. What is this world full of? All of it. What about the things that the political parties and the institutions do? Bombing whole cities of civilians on the pretext of protecting them from violence. All these things, the crash of the economy. Do you think that makes people feel good? Oh yeah, I feel great. No, it makes them feel fearful. It makes them feel anxious. All the energy that we're giving off, which is exactly what they want. And you know something? I speak to a lot of people around the world. But of course, except at a place like this, most of them come because they know where I'm coming from. But when I do speak further afield, lots of present company here accepted, by the way, I see how easy it is for the few to control the many. It is so easy, it is pathetic. And we are heading towards a society where we will be living a life which would make George Orwell wince. Now there's the thing. George Orwell. Some people said to me, give me a chance or an explanation of what the world is like that they want to create. And if anyone does that, is happening before our eyes. And I'd say to them, read two books. 1984 by George Orwell, real name Eric Blair, and Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Brave New World was published in 1932, and 1984 was published in 1948. When we look back from the perspective of 2012 at what's in those books compared with society now, they are stunning in their prophecy. Unbelievable. Now, how did they do that? How did they do that? Why were they so accurate? Because, oh, don't be a prass all your life. Have a day off. Enjoy yourself. George Orwell, Eric Blair, went to Eton College, where the royals go. His French teacher at one point was Aldous Huxley. Aldous Huxley was a member of an elite secret society called the Fabian Society. He introduced Eric Blair, George Orwell to the Fabian Society. If you get to the inner core of these major secret societies, you access the projected agenda that they want to, the direction they want to take the world. That's where they got their information from, and that's why they're so accurate.
David, what is the agenda? You still haven't told us what the agenda is. If it's something as crude as to control the banking systems of the world, surely they are so omnipotent that they could completely dismantled that. That is such old technology, having coins and notes as a means to exchange. It is so 20th century. We've moved on before. What do they want?
What have we moved on to?
You tell us.
No, you tell us, mate. You know it all.
I want to know what the agenda is, because I think I'm not buying it.
Tell me. I don't give a shit. What have we moved on to?
I think we moved on to a fairly liberal, democratic society that is not perfect, but it sounds to me a lot less scary than the one you're speaking about.
So, when, for instance, in the one-party state, because that's what we live in, as they do in America, hold on a second, you ask a question.
That is so flip,
Cameron,
that is so flip and wrong to say one-party state.
Well, believe it is. Don't confuse.
You stood for the Green Party.
Don't confuse.
You stood for the
Don't
Green
confuse
Party.
what you believe to be what is, mate. Big mistake.
I think we're both doing that, David.
Oh well, that's fair enough. No, okay. You know, I'm not asking anyone to believe anything. I couldn't give a damn. I'm asking people to look at how we are programmed into belief systems
and
that we then
hold on, agenda,
which we then follow for the rest of our lives. I mean, look at it. We get people, even if they've got a job, they get up in the morning, and what happens? They have their breakfast, they go to work. They have a bit of lunch, sandwich normally, then they go to work. Then they go home, then they watch a bit of telly, have their tea, then they go to bed, and the whole thing starts. And this goes on year after year, decade after decade. Is that the only way that we, as a human race, can live our frickin' lives? Is it the only way? Children are prepared for this through the education system, and then they drop into the hamster's wheel, and away we go. Oh my God. It's like lambs to the frickin' slaughter, if you only knew. How far are we?
I'm still asking for the agenda.
The agenda is the centralized control of humanity with this structure. They want to create a world government that would dictate to every country and community. The European Union is a stepping stone to that, and these other unions. They want a world army that would impose the will of the world government on any country or region that didn't want to accept it. We already have a de facto world army. It is called NATO. And we have a de facto world government called the G8 and the UN Security Council. They make decisions, and then they send their de facto world army, NATO, in to bomb civilians, mostly with brown bloody faces.
And you know what? They're so efficient that they can't even do away with a tiny country like Afghanistan.
And they also want a situation where we have a single world electronic currency. This is your moving on, mate. Now, that is incredible in its possibilities for freedom. You go into a shop today and you hand over electronic money, a credit card, and they say, sorry, I'm sorry, can't use your card. It won't accept your card. At that point, today, just because it's going out of circulation at an extraordinary rate, you can still say, oh, well, I'll pay cash then. What happens when there's no cash and that machine says no to your electronic money or card or microchip as it's designed to be? It's deciding whether you purchase. Total control. And anyone that challenges the system will go off the Christmas card list of the system very quickly. You've asked me a question, mate. Just leave me to answer it.
What they also want
is a world central bank that dictates all global finance. Now, since the crash of 2008, I've been saying this in my books for 20 years. Since 2008, the cabal and its frontmen have been calling for a world central bank and a world government to overcome the problems that they themselves have created. And this brings me to two things. I'll finish on this probably. Two things. How can a few people control and direct the lives of the many? Two major collective mind and emotional manipulation techniques. The first one I called many years ago now, problem, reaction, solution. And it works like this. You want to change society, in a way that you know if you openly announce it, you're going to get massive resistance from the population. So you don't do that. You create a problem covertly, you blame someone else for it, and you tell an unquestioning media your version of what happened in terms of the problem. The unquestioning media then takes the official story, lie, and tells the people. At stage 2, they're looking for a reaction from the people of fear, of outrage about the problem, and a response that says, something must be done, this can't go on, what are they going to do about it? And at that point, those who've covertly created the problem and gleaned that reaction then offer the solutions to the problems they have themselves created. And what are those solutions? They are changing society in line with the fascist, centralized Orwellian agenda. Second one of these techniques is what I call the totalitarian tiptoe. It goes like this. You're at A, you know you're going to Z. But you know if you go in big leaps to Z, the change is so blatant that people look up from the game shows and EastEnders and go, what's going on? And so you don't go in big leaps, you go as fast as you can get away with, but not so fast that you alert too many people to the pattern. And eventually, you get through by making these steps, each promoted as totally unconnected to all the other steps, but when you put them together, they're going in the same direction. I've just described how the European Union came into being. It was sold years ago, back in the 50s, as a free trade zone, good for jobs. But provable fact, their own documents. There was a man called Jean Monnet, so-called father of Europe. He wrote it in a letter to a friend on the day after I was born, April the 30th, 1952, and said, and I paraphrase, we are going to go to the superstate in steps. This is in 1952, and each one is going to be sold as having an economic purpose until we cross the line where we've got so much control that the job's done and people don't even know it's been done. And they're still doing it. When you want a world single currency, the euro is not an end, it is a stepping stone to an end. The euro was brought in simply to mop up the mark, the guilder, the lira, and all the other currencies of Europe. In one swoop, gone! And now they're just in the process, eventually, not necessarily tomorrow, of crashing the euro, and they'll go on to the next step. We have so many constant problems in the world, so many crises, for goodness sake, because under problem, reaction, solution, you need constant problems and crises to offer constant solutions to keep this moving. Look where we are, for goodness sake, in terms of human freedom. Cameron came in and said, I'm going to roll back the Big Brother state. What has he been? The Big Brother state on bloody steroids. Because there's no contract when you run an election campaign, no contract between you and the people. Obama can say, I'm going to close Guantanamo Bay and then get into power and not do it. There's no contract. This lady, Prime Minister of Australia, can come to power saying there's not going to be a carbon tax under my government and then introduce it. No one can stop her because there's no contract. It's simple. Tell them what they want to hear. Get the vote. Do as you frickin' like. How much longer are we going to take this?
Okay.
Human race, get off your knees.
I think we might just take a couple of questions here before we wind up on what's been a very interesting talk. Hold on a minute. If I could just say, David's book, or David's books and tickets for his shows are, of course, available with this very same electronic currency that he purports to so
do you know something? If I could personify how easy it is to control the world.
Yeah. Okay, so a question from the gentleman down here.
Unbelievable. Babes in bloody arms.
What? Why is it? I've asked that question many times.
Why lizards?
Oh, why lizards, Dave?
Okay. Why not? Well, why not? Why humans? Why humans? Why humans? Why not? Why humans?
It's a question.
No, it is. It is answering you. You're saying to me, why lizards? And I'm saying to you as an answer, why humans? Why not? Why not lizards? That's unbelievable.
That's the level of debate that we've reached.
Why humans?
The answer to why is why not. Lady over there.
So humans, here we go. Here we go. I want to pick up this point.
Okay.
Why humans? Because humans have 2 legs. Okay, so here we go with the state of possibility banging against the belief system. So this, only humans, any color human, can a black human have 2 legs? Yeah, I suppose they can. They can have, a black human can, a Jewish human can, an English human can, but no other genetic form can have 2 legs. What? What? What are you talking about? Why not?
I didn't say that.
You did. You regret saying it, but you said it.
Just tell us about the lizard.
I can't hear that.
The question is, if the world is so fucked up, why did he choose to have a family and subject them to this same awful, evil, secret society-driven?
Okay, so what do? Do we just give up, or do we dedicate and focus our lives on doing something about it? I'm 60 years of frickin' age. What have I got? A few years, 10 maybe? Yeah, you'll be very glad about that. Nice person. Hey. So, I ain't doing this for me. I don't have to live my entire freaking life, as young people do today virtually, in the world that's coming so fast. I've just done this because I believe it's right. And the fact that you get ridiculed for doing what you believe is right shows how mentally disturbed much of the human race is.
Lady here. Lady here.
How much are you getting paid?
I am doing... yeah, here you go. Here you go. Do you know something? I've come here to talk to this group for fuck all. Okay? Fuck all. You know why? Because I believe in trying to make a frickin' difference, not make a frickin' noise for its own sake.
David, I think if we're being slightly less disingenuous, there is a lot of stuff that you will sell on the back of this, on the back of your Wembley Arena appearances, and so on.
Do you think we have to all in actual numbers?
Do we have time to change? That's a great question. And there's only one group of people that can decide it. Moi. Because if we go on living out the programs of suppression of possibility, we are going to live in a global fascist state within a decade. And I'm probably being optimistic. And have you noticed how many times I've used the word fascist in terms of this system? And I'm supposed to be anti-frickin' Jewish. Are you kidding? I'm anti-fascism, not anti any bloody race. Race is bollocks. We're consciousness. Race is just an experience. Grow flicking up, human race. That's enough.
One more?
No, one more. Hey?
Back to these families who rule the world.
Yeah.
Who are they?
Who are the families who rule the world is a question.
The royal families of Europe are among them. The House of Rothschild, the House of Rockefeller, the major banking families of the world, the major corporate families of the world. And look, my last book was 355,000 frickin' words, mate. If you're interested in the names and the detail, read the frickin' thing. Oh no, I have to tell you everything. Bucker off. Read it. You want to know the names, you read them. Take some power back. Get informed.
I think it was a very simple question, David, but if you do have to buy that 355-page book...
Hey, give us your... I'd say give me your address and I'll send you one, but you wouldn't bloody read it, so...
No.
Well, give it then. Give your address, I'll give it you.
Okay, I think... David, are you finished, or do you want...
I'm finished, yeah. I tell you
Ladies
what,
and gentlemen, that was, is, and will be David Icke. Thank you.
yeah. Hey, for those that listen with an open mind, thank you and congratulations. For those who listen with a closed mind, 5 to 10 years from now, you're going to remember this moment. See ya. All the best. Well, I've just finished talking for, I don't know, about an hour. And what you get is, when you come to something like this, is you get people who know what you're saying and, you know, are sort of with you. And you get those that just turn up, because that David Icke bloke, he's mad in it, let's go and see him. So you get two types of audience, but it's fantastic because, especially with the guy on the stage who really did personify the programmed mind and why the world is as it is and how easy it is to control the world. And it was fascinating to see it, but some lady jumped on the stage talking about he's actually Jewish, you know, she had a brain cell that would die of loneliness and knows nothing about what I'm saying. But what I've just been told is that there have been threats to me that if I walk through the festival, there are going to be threats to me that they'll do me harm, and the organisers have said, you know, we're going to organise a car to get you out of here. And I'm thinking, what? You know, hey, don't be a prat all your life, mate, have a day off, eh? What I'm doing, as you can see, is walking to my car through the Bestival. The freaking people ain't going to intimidate me to walk away from them. What? You must be bloody joking. So I've had a lovely day. I had a ball out there, really, because I love playing with the people that just have no desire to see it and think they're intelligent about the world, and they're babes in bloody arms. So I've had a great day, and I'm walking home to my car through the Bestival and not in the back of some other bloody car to get away from them, whoever they are. Is that right? See you, gang, all the best. Software programs on legs. And then, I don't know where he came from, to be honest, but you'll see a guy in this event. I was going to go out and talk, as I do, but the organisers had arranged for this bloke to come on the stage with me and, quote, interview me. Well, he didn't actually do that. He just set out to undermine what I was saying and interrupt at crucial moments when I was connecting dots so that the thought was never finished. And his name was Richard Strange, which I guess is short for Dick Strange, which, you know, after my experience of him, was pretty appropriate, really, because he was, again, someone with hindsight that was good to be there and good to act as he did, because he was, like the girl who jumped on the stage, a personification of how the world is controlled by a tiny few people who manipulate the perception of the masses. This is a chap who's never done any research into the detail of what I'm saying, never read any of my books, knows basically nothing about what I'm saying, and has a range of perception that is so tiny, it's unbelievable. And anyone like me who's talking outside of that perception, the perception can't encompass that possibility. So the person saying it has to be crazy or deluded. What they don't realize is they're the ones that are deluded. They're deluded by the pea-size breadth of their sense of perception. Because this is very important. If you do not have a sense of perception that is movable, then you're in a box. You're in a box of perception, and you will never get out of it until your perception of the possible. It's all second-hand and stuff taken out of context and all the rest of it. And if you stand up and you speak out against the genocide of Palestinians, a whole nation, in Israel, Palestine, then somehow you're anti-Semitic, which doesn't actually mean anti-Jewish, but it's too deep for them. And I had this kind of experience in this Bestival of the kind of mix of all this, some lovely, lovely people, but also the robot radicals. And they always have the mouths, you know. I mean, robot radical, one of the things that comes with it is a big gob, it seems to me. Then they try to drown everyone else out. Oh, you're a man, you've got a big mouth. And what happened quite early on in the talk, as you'll see, is a girl jumps on the stage and reads some out of context stuff from my books. Hey, he's an anti-Semite, in other words, you know. And then what she did, after mouthing off, she left, not staying to listen what I really say and all the rest of it. Couldn't care less, because they're not into what someone's saying. They're just into posturing their own fake purity and trying to undermine and turn people against someone who's trying to point out that we, ironically, little girl in a woman's body, that we are heading so fast into a fascist global state. And so it was good, in a way, to have this mentality there as just a confirmation of how easy it is for the few to control the many when they allow themselves to be programmed with these software perceptions that they've taken from the system. You are a left-of-centre radical. This is how you act. This is what you say. Okay, yes, sir. And you are of the robot right. This is how you act, and this is what you say. Yes, thank you, sir. And so it goes on, and they think they're free thinkers. Well, morons. You know, I can't think of a better word than that, really. Kind of wanting to shout out with their closed minds and all the rest of it, being wound up by this guy who was, you know, as you'll see. When you see that in front of you, you see this awakening, kind, gentle, decent people. And then you see these moronic, loudmouth software programs. You realize, in fact, you see the chasm there is between that which is becoming conscious and that which is solid gold asleep. And this is the fork in the road we're at now. Are we going to awaken to something like that? Or are we going to stay in a tiny little box of software perception that perceives it is free thought? That's the sad thing. Anyway, it was a very interesting day, and here it is. Enjoy.
Next up, we have author and controversial talker David Icke. But first, his son Gareth playing the theme of their new show, Remember Who You Are. Give it a round of applause, please.
Cheers. We were born pushed to the floor. We won't be downtrodden anymore. On a roll, want yourself with settled scores. With all my height, stand with shoulders wide, step clean out of line, hold my head up high. They can't take my eyes. I still
moves. The other point, just finally, is that at the end, I came off, and one of the security people said, we've got a car coming to take you to your car, which was a long way away in one of the big car parks, about an hour's walk away. And I said, no, I like walking. I'll walk back, thanks. He said, no, we've had threats of violence against you, so we're going to put you in a car and take you back to your car for your safety. I said, you must be bloody joking, mate. I don't do intimidation, thank you. I'm walking back to my car on my own, which I did, actually, with a couple of people who were chatting to me in the end. And it's funny that, you know, these people who threaten this, the robot radicals, he's anti-Semitic, I want to hit him. They're the ones that go on anti-war marches and think they stand for peace. And also they think they stand for freedom of expression. But you know what they stand for? Just like the robot right? Their freedom of expression. Thus, anyone who is expressing something outside of their belief system, that is not a freedom of expression that they're prepared to accept. Only what they believe should have freedom of expression, not what they don't believe. And so you get this whole situation of, I stand for peace, stop the war, I want to punch him, he's saying something I disagree with. Hit me with your head, mate, you'll do yourself less damage, So it was an interesting day, and kind of encompassed so many things. And to stand there and see, I think, the majority of the audience, pretty much, that were kind of open and, awakening to another reality of the world and self and everything. But they were the quiet ones. And then to have the few, hello, I'm just doing a little introduction to a video of an event I did at a music festival called the Bestival on the Isle of Wight, not far from me, in September 2012. It's always interesting when I do events like that. I've done a few over the years, not too many, and they're always the same. What happens is you get a lot of very open, awake people who come to hear the information. They've often read about it in the books and stuff, and they've got a feel for where I'm coming from. But you also get at these festivals, well, basically, the morons. These are people, young people, because of the nature of the event, often, that have not been on the earth for that very long, but are already solid gold programmed into the system's perception of reality. So anything that's just a little bit out from their tiny pea-sized norm has got to be crazy or impossible and all the rest of it. And it also draws in what I termed a long time ago now, because I had experience of this mentality for so long, I call them the robot radicals. They are of the left in politics, as they see it in this ridiculous, irrelevant, actually meaningless left-right spectrum. On one side you have the robot right, and then on the other side you have what I call the robot radicals. There's no difference really, as there's no real difference between, or fundamental difference at all between fascism and communism. The difference on the surface between the robot right and the robot radicals is the robot radicals think they're so pure and, oh, we're so pure. And they wear their hearts on their sleeves, and in my experience, their brains up their arse. And, they've been attacking me for years. He's an anti-Semite. And the funny thing is, they never actually come and hear you.